Hello everyone, this is Discounts France. Welcome to our weekly news reading channel. Every week I'll be reading news from different French news media platforms. I won't exactly read the whole articles, it'll be more like a summary of a news topic with some related background in it. So I'll link all my resources below in the description box if you would like to find out more. This week's topics are the follow-up on Australian submarines, 2022 budget of France, and some news flash, and with the weather this weekend. Let's begin. The first topic is the follow-up on Australian submarines. As we know from last week's news reading, Australia breaking the contract of the sales of 12 submarines with France caused various diplomatic issues. This week, there has been further developments. This Wednesday, at the request of the American president, Joe Biden and Emmanuel Macron spoke by telephone, and they promised to restore confidence between Paris and Washington. Next week, French Ambassador Philippe Etienne, who has been recalled from the US by Macron last Friday, is returning to the US as a sign of easing the tension. Joe Biden and Emmanuel Macron are going to meet in Europe at the end of October to continue discussions and move forward on reconciliation. As for the UK, a meeting that's scheduled this week between both countries' Minister of Armed Force, Ben Wallace, and Florence Parly has been cancelled on the request of Paris. Like Boris Johnson, who had repeated from New York that the Aukus alliance was neither exclusive nor intended to divide, Ben Wallace again had defended himself from any intention to offend, to upset, or to dig a ditch with the French. And while the English news media Daily Telegraph is amused by the fury of the French, The Times, yet very conservative, invites in his editorial Downing Street with more tact. Boris Johnson should propose to Joe Biden that France be integrated into the new Aukus Defence Pact. From Australia's point of view, the tension in the Indo-Pacific region with China is more and more aggressive due to economic terms of exporting business and the Chinese Army's increasing capacity. Australians are no longer satisfied with the traditional diesel-powered submarines, while nuclear-powered submarines are much more discreet in front of an enemy. Australia is said that they have been vaguely giving signals about breaking the contract since this summer. Still, it has only been confirmed by Australia later by announcing another contract excluding France. And since the breaking of the contract, there hasn't been official communications between Australia and France. Australia Prime Minister Scott Morrison explained that he had tried to reach Emmanuel Macron, but that the interview had not yet taken place when he was speaking in Washington this Wednesday. Scott Morrison promises that Australia will be patient and says he understands that France is disappointed with the move, and it may take more time than that between France and the United States. Australia's actions has not only put France in a crisis but also impacted on EU's diplomacy. It posed a threat to the continuation of negotiation on the free trade treaty between the European Union and Australia, as well as the holding of the first meeting of the United States European Council on Technology and Trade next week in the United States. German Secretary of State for European Affairs Michael Ross refers this crisis as a wake-up call for everyone in the EU. The French Secretary of State for European Affairs Clement Bonne also called on EU to become aware of the need to strengthen its strategic autonomy towards its American ally. The effect of the Australian submarine event may stretch much further than we can see now. I'll bring more follow-ups on this topic. The second topic is 2022 budget of France. This Wednesday, September 22nd, the French government revealed the last budget bill of the Macron 5-year term starting from 2017. The emphasis is on spending and investing for foster growth, in the meantime starting to reduce the public deficit. In total, an increase of 12 billion euros in the budget is planned for 2022. Here are some figures to help you understand the 2022 budget. The expectation of 4% economic growth. After a strong rebound in 2021, with growth of 6% according to INSEE, the government expects growth of 4% in 2022. This would benefit in particular from the marked increase in consumption constrained in 2021 by health measures. The public deficit are expected to decrease sharply to 4.8% of GDP. After 2 years marked by the financing of the response to health crisis causing public deficit of 8.4% in 2021 and 9.1% in 2020, the government is optimistic about the improvement of the public finance situation. As a result of the reduction in the public deficit, the public debt against GDP ratio should also decline slightly. The government estimates that it will reach 116% of the GDP in 2021, then 114% in 2022. This gradual return to normal is explained in particular by the decrease of volume of public expenditure of 3.5%, notably under the effect of the gradual downwards of emergency measures. The compulsory tax rate remains at 43.5% since the start of the 5-year term. The annual compulsory levies of the French have decreased by 50 million euros evenly distributed between households and businesses. In 2022, the rate of compulsory levies should remain, as in 2021, at 43.5% of GDP, which was the lowest rate for more than 10 years, against 45.1% in 2017. Note that in 2022, all French companies will see their profits taxed at the nominal rate of 25%, against 23.3% at the start of the 5-year term. An unprecedented budget of 41 billion for defense. The 1.7 billion euro increase in the defense mission will bring the total budget of the armed force to 40.9 billion, which is an unprecedented amount, according to the government. In detail, 800 million will be devoted to armament and equipment maintenance programs. 600 million are going to the acquisition of equipment at human height, in particular neutralities. The 4 billion mark for culture. While attendance is at its lowest in large public establishments, and live entertainment is struggling to pick up, the ministry's budget is going to cross the 4 billion euro mark in 2022, 7.5% increase compared to 2021. Appropriation for artist creation will be total of 909 million. Nearly 100 million more than in 2017. An increase of 1.6 billion for education. The budget shows that the government continues its commitment to education. The increase of national education reaches 1.6 billion, leading the school education budget to 55.2 billion. Only 200 million for the emergency plan. The emergency plan mission was created in the beginning of the crisis to provide financial support to businesses and households. The plan will be extended to 2022, but there will be only 200 million euros allocated for the purchase of masks. In total, from 2020 to 2022, 8 billion were mobilized in these emergency measures, including Solidarity Fund, partial unemployment, etc. Tax revenues is expected to be 311 billion. The shutdown of the economy caused by the COVID-19 has dropped the tax revenue to 270 billion. With economy recovery and tax revenue is expected to back to normal, corporate tax revenue and income tax revenues are expected to break records at around 40 billion and 82 billion respectively. To sum up, in 2022, tax policies remain the same, and the sectors who are going to benefit from a budget increase are Defense, increased by 1.7 billion euros, 26% increase compared to last year. Ministry of Ecological Transition, increased by 1.4 billion euros. A stimulus plan for energy renovation of 2 billion euros is allocated for the period of 2021 to 2022. Ministry of the Interior, increased by 1.4 billion euros, including recruiting police and gendarmes for security matters. Justice, increased by some 700 million euros. National Education, increased by 1.6 billion euros, including an increase of 760 million euros in higher education and research. Work and Employment, increased by 5 million euros, mainly for young people. Other sectors also benefit from the budget increase, including transport, 350 million euros, housing, 500 million euros, and emergency accommodation, 500 million euros, and disability, 500 million euros. Now, is your sector going to benefit from the budget increase next year? Next are some news flash this week. Patrick Pouyanné, CEO of Total Energies, are being investigated after reproached by Greenspace, Antica, and the association La Sphinx for having taken advantage of the status to obtain the establishment of a research center for the company in the school grounds. Nasal vaccines for COVID-19 are being tested and said to have encouraging results. Possible market launch by 2023. Nearly 200 police officers started the evacuation of crack users around the AO Garden from 10 a.m. this Friday. Real estate prices continue to rise in France, breaking the record of the number of real estate sales over the last 12 months. Most lively markets are in the provinces, but great properties are sold quickly everywhere, including Paris. Lastly, here are the weathers in France this weekend before we say goodbye. In Paris, there will be possibility of rain on Sunday. Temperature in weekends will vary from 16 to 26 degrees Celsius. So that's it for today's news reading. Any thoughts? Please leave your comments below. Thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll bring more videos to you. See you next time. Until then, have a good week.